We are meeting up with Lheighton Cook, who's a mutual friend of Ryan and myself. Ryan's behind the camera. And Lheighton and I follow each other on social media, never met in person. And today we're gonna spend the day with him. We're gonna skate, which is something I haven't done in a long time. And then we're gonna have a conversation because he's of the new generation. He's early 20s, he's a skater, he's launching a clothing brand, and he's really interested in just finance and kind of what the new generation can do. So I'm gonna ask him some questions about what he's kind of going through at the moment. He's gonna ask me some questions, and I think it's gonna be potentially a piece that we end up doing from here on out, because I think it'll be cool connecting with the younger generation, man. Like, I'm so interested in hearing what you guys have to say. So this is our day together with Lheighton Cook. So dude, tell us about Father. Tell us kind of where the idea came from and what made you want to go into apparel or even entrepreneurship, starting a business.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, as far as clothing goes, it was just something that I always was drawing on clothes as a kid and spray painting stencils on the shirts and decks and different things. So I always like creating things, and it started there. And then as I got older, the quality kind of got better than just drawing on stuff.
Yeah.
And then I remember hearing stories about my parents making clothes in the 90s and them being successful there. And it kind of was like, it made sense, like, oh, this is why I'm into that. And so it just kind of made sense. And I kept going, and I love all kinds of art, but being able to actually wear something, and it just kind of, it makes it all real, you know? And so that's what got me into it.
So I have a belief that skateboarders are built to be entrepreneurs. Like, one, we're really creative in our outlook. Two, skateboarding is so hard, and you get so used to the failure aspect of just having to just fail over and over until you do it. And three, I think there's a lot of it that like, we're very comfortable making things happen. Did you have that similar experience, and do you think that helped you move into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, no, I do. I totally agree, for sure. That definitely was something that I didn't really think about in the beginning, but now, like, just kind of, you know, looking back in retrospect, like, yeah, for sure, skating had a lot to do with, you know, me wanting to keep going. You know, it's not even like I've made it yet to be like, oh yeah, for sure, skating helped me get to where I'm at, but just even on the journey, like, always, you know, falling and busting your shins and rolling ankles and getting back up and just chasing that feeling of just finally landing that trick and rolling away. It's like the same thing in entrepreneurship. Like, you're just kind of chasing those little wins, and you finally get it, and it's like, it just feels like skating. So yeah, for sure. But right. Without it, I don't know if I'd still be doing it, just because it's hard, you know? And yeah. So if you don't love it, and you don't love the process, then it's, you know, it's just obviously going to be harder than not. So
where did you come up with the name?
Father is basically just another word for king. But I didn't want to use the word king, because okay. I don't know what I just didn't like how it sounded. But yeah, another word for king. Simple term.
Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure, man. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Heck yeah, dude. Oh, man. Here we go. Yes, dude.
Plastic waste, perfect for skating, man.
Yes. So, do you want to tell them the story? Do you want me to? I saw Lheighton wearing these on Instagram, and I don't know if I DM'd you or if I DM'd Ryan.
You commented on it.
I commented, I'm like, let me get some of these.
I was tripping.
Yes.
I was trying to send to people like, dude, check it out.
Yes, and Ryan texted me. He's like, hey, dude, Lheighton want to know, like, is Mikey serious? Like, will he actually wear it? I'm like, hell yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Dude.
My pleasure.
Let's do this. Have you had any help along the way? Is there anybody that's helped you kind of put this together? Was there any kind of education that you got, or are you just out here I'm going to figure this out and do it?
I pretty much just learned as I went, and you know, naively started, and just like, me and my buddy actually made a podcast about this. We're talking about having a brand and thinking like, oh, for sure, like I know 50 people, I can make 50 hoodies, for sure, sell them out, like nothing. No, like that's not what happened. And so you just kind of learn as you go. You start off ordering a bunch of stuff, and then you kind of learn, okay, this is what you should, you know, you just kind of, you piece it together. And so I just been doing that, and I always find myself on Google, like searching all day long, always listening to YouTube videos, podcasts, like just trying to learn from people who were more experienced and have done it or doing it. and that's pretty much it. You know, like my mentor Bezos tells me, just learn in the trenches. Like you got to just get in and just get your hands dirty, and you're gonna bump your head, and that's the best way to learn.
What do you think has been, was there anything that you kind of pictured in your mind, like, dude, when I start this company, like kind of what you just said, I'm gonna sell all this product and it's gonna be done like this. What was like I came in and my whole expectations are shattered, like this is actually way different, and what was that like learning moment like?
Man, I do honestly, like, if I'm being honest, the very first drop, I had, it was like 2 different hats and 2 different shirts, and they're super basic. And I ordered, I don't even remember how many, but I ordered way too much. Because I literally, it's going on 5 years that Father Brand's been a thing. And I still have like 2 hats left from that collection. Like it's crazy, like years later, and I've been trying to get rid of them, and I feel like they just keep popping up in the cabinet, like where are they coming from? So that definitely was a huge learning experience. Just like, you just, you know, you think that you're just gonna sell out quick, or you think it's just so easy, like you can just, you know, it's sometimes it happens, you know, that people have kind of that notoriety to just start something and it just sells out all the time and whatever, but usually not. And so I learned that for sure, just kind of like you have to build it. You're trying to build something bigger than just a quick overnight type thing.
So you skate, you have a business, you're an entrepreneur. Where does finance come into this equation? What is, let me ask you something simple. Growing up, what is your opinion on what money is?
I'm not gonna lie, I don't have the story like some people where it's like we struggled and, you know, like it's so important to me because I didn't have it. You know, I grew up with a single mom, and she did really well. You know, she actually works out here in LA, and she's a house supervisor at the hospital, so she does well. And so I didn't struggle. I don't have brothers and sisters. I'm an only child, and so everything kind of just went to me. So I would just say, I think seeing how hard my mom worked, and not only that, but what she actually did with her money. I was homeschooled off and on throughout my school years, and we used to play board games, and some of them were like Robert Kiyosaki games, like you know, learning. I forgot what it was called, but it was like a kid's game for all the things that he was teaching, and we used to do things like that. And she'd teach me, yeah, exactly, dude. And she'd teach me how to. One of the classes would be like, oh, I'm gonna teach you how to write a check, or you know, little things that most people are not learning. And so it was always important that you understood how money works, and just making sure that, you know, you're doing the right things with it. So,
what did your mom have a healthy relationship with money? She's stressed about money. She manage it poorly, correctly?
Really, really well, for sure. And that for sure helped me with my foundation too. Just making sure that that I had enough of it, and to be able to do what she did, and she was never worried about it. You know, we're always fine. And so like that's why I was saying I'm super grateful to have that, to where I never was stressed.
Yeah. I had a great representation of what money is that my parents do.
Yeah.
Like, we grew up. My dad was a photographer. Didn't make a ton of money. Didn't make no money. He made good money. Managed money really, really well. So I had a similar experience of just the example that they set upon me. Was massive, totally huge. Do you think it's weird? And actually, I don't even know if it's changing, but when I was growing up skating, not only did skaters not talk about money, but having money or managing money was not cool.
Yeah,
that was like
exactly.
the anti.
Yeah, dude.
Is it still like that?
Yeah, man, I would hope not. But
let me take a step back. Do you feel any pressure, or is it weird for you to want to be successful or make a certain amount of money, or even just managing money correctly? Or are you just like, I don't care what people think, I'm just doing this?
No, I have goals, man. I really, like, for me, like I'm living in Chino Hills now, but I want to own my own house, and I want to stay in Chino Hills. That's like, I'm planting my flag. I was raised there, and so that's where I want to be. But I want to be in Chino Hills, but on the hill later on. And so I definitely, he is, man, right. For sure. He's got to be on the hill, man. I'm trying to be next door.
That's right.
And so, like, I definitely, I don't have pressure though. Like, I have big goals, but I don't have any pressure to where I'm stressed out, you know, like I need to hit these, you know. I mean, I guess, you have to in a way, because how are you going to get to your goals if you're not? But I'm definitely no pressure.
Yeah.
And then as far as the skate industry, I think that to a certain extent, it's still almost like a little corny, which I don't understand because it costs. Dude, it costs money to eat. Like I don't understand how people are like weird about trying to get your money right and save and not have debt or whatever else, and it doesn't make sense to me. But I'm fine with being corny and having some money and taking care of my family, and so that's cool with me.
I feel you.
But that was gonna be my next thing I was gonna ask, because you like we hear a lot about fitness as far as skating goes, like where there's a lot of pros coming out with like different foam rollers and different diets and how they keep their body right to be able to keep skating. But to be honest, you're pretty much one of the only people that I hear about screaming about like finance and getting your money right and protecting it and everything. And like, I'm just curious on why is that? Why is this? I mean, obviously it's important to you because we need money, but is there something aside from that?
Dude, truthfully, it's all important, right? Like, it's not just that money is the most important. That's what everybody needs to pay attention to. It's not that fitness is the only thing, right? It's that there's so many different areas of our kind of, how would you say it? There's so many different aspects of life that we're trying to master. And I think if you have more of those categories kind of firing at all cylinders, then you're living a better life. Right? It's like that could be finance, fitness, faith, business, all family, all of them, right? For me, it was just through my career, and the thing that I was really given that I felt was a huge blessing was on the financial side. And like health, like I wasn't a skater that was like that into health. Like I just skated every day, truthfully, right? So like that wasn't part of my story. Like entrepreneurship was, but finance was something that I was always so freaked out about because I had something that I loved that I didn't ever want to end. Like I never wanted skateboarding to end. That was my life, right? But I knew it was going to. And what made it even more scary is I didn't know what life was going to look like after. And so that fear of like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Mixed with somebody coming into my life that actually spent time educating me on little things. Like things that sound so stupid to say, but living off less than you make, right? Not being in debt, investing in yourself, paying yourself first, compounding, right? All of these like very simple principles that when it comes to money were massive for me. And then as I got kind of closer towards the end of my career ends overnight, just boom, which I wasn't expecting. Like I had this idea that like my career is going to end because my sponsors called me and went, hey dude, this has been great. Why don't we do this for another year, 2 years? At year 2, we're going to throw you a party, a retirement. You're going to do your thing. Like I thought it was going to be this whole like, thank you, right? That's, ego involved. And it was a phone call and it just ended. So that happening and then me not having to scramble to make money, oh my gosh, that put me in a position that I was so thankful for. And then as I started figuring out what I wanted to do next, finance was a part of my story. It was like I was in this position because I was taught how to manage money correctly, and then I executed on that plan. And dude, no one talks about money. It's not even just in skateboarding, it's in general. No one talks about it. So I just picked my lane of what I thought I could do to help. And my idea is if I'm talking about money, and hopefully more people start talking about it in the future, and then you have the dudes talking about fitness, and then you have the dudes talking about family and all of it, right? Well, dude, we're actually gonna make a big impact on people's lives, right? But finance is one that it's just, dude, like nobody talked about it to me except for Randy. And even when he spoke to me about it, I never told any of my friends about it. I was embarrassed and scared to talk to my friends who are skaters about money because I thought they were going to look at me and go, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah. But it shouldn't be like that at all, man. It's like, it's a necessity. Not only that, I mean, it just, you have to be conscious of these things because a lot of people, like I said, I feel like anything positive is like weird or corny or it's just kind of like, why? Like being negative and kind of dark is just a cooler thing. And I get it, I get it. But Man, I don't know. I'm curious, how did you learn about it? Because you said earlier, right now, you said you were taught. Mm-hmm. Was it something like just in family, or did you go to school for it? Or where do you sit on that?
Yeah, so the first thing that was huge for me was my parents. Like, my mom and dad didn't necessarily talk to me about money, but I watched how they were with it. And, like, if anything happened out of the ordinary when it came to money, like something as simple as like getting a traffic ticket, dude, my dad, his emotions, my dad was just black and white with money. So that was good because I saw what it was to have a healthy relationship with money, not to have money rule you, right? I didn't start learning about like what money actually was and how it actually moves until I turned pro. And when I turned pro, my parents were so scared about me being a pro skateboarder that they connected me with somebody to help me with my finance. And so he was the one that started it all for me, and just asking simple questions. I remember one of the first things he asked me was like, well, when do you want to retire? And I was like, wait, you have like a choice? Like I could pick the number? I thought like whatever, like most people retire at 65, but like my career is going to end somewhere in my like late 20s. Right. And he goes, no, you actually start with the end in mind. At what age do you want to retire? I was like, oh, okay. Well, my career ends at, let's say 30. 30 is going to be that moment. And he's like, okay, well then how much do you need to be making on, I didn't even understand interest or any of this. How much money do you need to come in from interest to support your lifestyle? What? I don't know. Yeah. And it was just the simple questions he was asking me that I didn't have answers to that made me go, what's going on here? And then he just started spending the time like, look, dude, this is the amount of interest that you can typically make right now. As you get older, your risk tolerance usually comes down, which means you're probably going to make less interest. And when you kind of go over your total plan of when you're trying to retire, how much money you need coming in, and all of the potential landmines that could happen along the way to offset that plan, this is how we need to be thinking of it. And I was like, what the?
I have no idea what you're talking about type thing. Yeah, you're like, dude, wait, how old are you, by the way, when that happened? When they kind of introduced you?
This is about 19 for me.
Okay.
19,
oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you got a really early start there.
I got a really early start. And then it was like, he started talking about these concepts. It changed when I started realizing them. Like, I remember he told me like, dude, your money can go out and make you money. And I was like so fascinated by that. I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, well, there's what they call a cost of capital. Somebody wants to use your money, they have to pay you for it. I'm like, okay, here we go, yeah. Right? So like that was one thing that was cool, but once I started putting money into investments and then those investments started paying me, then it was like, this is real? This actually happens? And then it just was like this discipline booster. I was like, I'm all the way in on this. Like, you want me to live like I'm broke, I'm gonna live like I'm broke so I get to experience more of this, right? It was just great guidance.
Nice. Nice. That's crazy, man. I love hearing when people start really young on anything. I mean, it doesn't just have to be with finance, but on anything, because I try and, motivate the kids. I mean, even when I'm at the skate park or the kids that I teach, we didn't really get into that, but I also have a skate academy, so I teach skate lessons at the park. And so it's really exciting to be able to talk to kids and just tell them some of these things, and they're really young. Like some of them I don't talk to like the little 5-year-olds about it, but like kids that are like 11, 12, they're kind of like thinking about, I really like art, or I really like, whatever. And I'm like, dude, you could totally do something with that. And just kind of I think it's kind of cool to kind of be like the older friend to kind of look out for them. Like, dude, you could do that, if you wanted to. And so that's really awesome to hear that you had that when you were 19, and like really like this guy that boosted you and kind of gave you the keys and let you know like this is possible. Like you could have your money work for you and all of that, man. That's awesome.
Dude, we were Mike and I were driving here, and this guy who I met last week calls me and he goes, hey, can you tell me about your company? Like, I see all your content and it looks like you're like kind of creating educational content for people who are kind of like getting started. But then your business looks like it's like, you guys like a private equity fund. Like, what's happening here, right? And I was like kind of telling him like, look, I know it makes no sense in theory because our actual business and who we're creating content for are not the same people. But when I looked back at really what I thought the true blessing was I had somebody that taught me, and then I had an opportunity that was to follow. But if I wasn't taught, I wouldn't have had the discipline to be able to invest in really cool opportunities, right? And that's really like the thing about the business. It's like that education was so important for me. So all of that is front and center, you know, and then as you build the discipline, well, now you have an opportunity to partner with us. But the thing is, I think all of us just do this. We just expect that when we have money, we're going to be good with money, right? But you kind of giving the example of the kids, like when I started skating, I wanted to just tray flip. I couldn't even ollie, but I wanted to tray flip, right? And I'm sure you tell kids, look, you have to start with the ollie.
All the time.
Then you're going to 180. Then you're going to kick flip. You're going to learn the foundations. And then when you get to the point of tray flipping, you're going to be able to tray flip because you did all of these things, right? Same thing applies to finance. It's like you have to build the discipline first before you make a lot of money. And then once you're managing money correctly, and then you make more money, the discipline's already created. It's just putting it into the system that's already moving, you know? So I think there are a lot of similarities between skateboarding and finance.
For sure. That was the next thing I was going to ask you too, because there's you can obviously get all the books you want, you can go to school for it, you can do whatever it is, but if you don't have the mentality behind it, you're not going to get anywhere. And so I know that's huge. Would you say that it was that guy that helped you when you were 19 solely, or did you dive into anything else on the mentality side before you kind of got to where you are now?
So, gosh, just think back to those times. So for me, where I had a leg up was when I was young, my parents really instilled this belief that I could do anything. Like, I never questioned that I couldn't do something. Everything felt possible, right? So I didn't struggle with the I can't have this. I had this mindset of how do I do it? Yeah. So I think that was a huge level, in a sense, that was captured before I even knew what was what. When I started learning about money, there was a book I read called Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah, it's a good one, great one.
And I remember I was on a trip, I was with Retta in Italy, and I got this book, right? And I can't remember where we're going. Maybe we're going to Sicily. We're like kind of like through these tunnels and reading this book, and right in the beginning it says, at some point in this book, there's gonna be a moment where it clicks. And at that moment, you are gonna have a pathway to success, right? And I'm like, yes, right? Like I'm so excited, yes. But it goes, it might happen now, it might happen halfway through, or it might happen at the end. Now I'm in my head, right? Like, when is it gonna hit me? When is it gonna hit me? And I'm like halfway through, 3/4 of the way through, right? Yeah. At the end, it was like, finally, I was like, oh, like it is all in your head, right? You have to think it's possible for you to go out and do it. And if you don't think it's possible, can't be done. Right. So a lot of times, like you can read books on the actual tactics, none of them matter until you have the belief that you can go out and do it. If you don't have the belief that you can go do it, then it doesn't matter at all.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I see, and just like you said, it applies the same in business and in skating and I don't know, football, whatever it is that you do. You have to have the mentality behind it, or you're just not. You're gonna go out there and get killed. Like it's life is hard enough as it is. If you don't have the mentality behind it, and you're not, being positive when you can be, and just enjoying the process, I think is huge, which I'm learning to do right now.
Yeah.
Then it's just tough. It's already tough as it is, and so. What are some so now we kind of cover mentality, but what about daily habits? Like what daily habits do you do to, get the best head start on the day? Do you do anything the night before? Like what is it? What's your kind of your rituals?
Okay, so mine change. Like I find that I'll have a window where like one thing's just like I'm set in stone and then it will kind of move into something else. But what I do no matter what is my day starts and I have a time where I get up before the kids. It's usually about an hour. Okay. So I'll wake up and it's clockwork. I make my coffee, I go sit down, and my first 30 minutes are basically a devotional. And so I'll pick a different chapter in the Bible, I'll do the chapter, I'll do my devotional, etc. From there, I'll usually move towards like things that I'm grateful for. I'll do like 5 things that I'm like thankful for. And just to get myself in this perspective of my life is good and I'm thankful. And the reason I started doing that is because when I was skating, I got in a cycle where I just hated everything. I was like complain guy. And it's funny, like the things you tell yourself become your reality, right? Like if all you're doing is complaining, then everything you see in front of you is going to be, everything's falling apart. And you know, I then become the victim or a negative lens moving forward, right? But I found when I'm thankful for what I have, and then my outlook is more positive, and then when things happen that like truthfully aren't great, I'm looking through it with a different lens. I'm looking through it like, oh, okay, so that kind of sucked, but how can it be good, right? So like the gratitude stuff is huge for me. And then typically I write down a couple goals for the day and then a couple like big vision goals. What I don't do is the follow-up at night. I don't go back and check off what I did and what I didn't do, which probably something I need to implement. But what I found though is like I need consistency. Like I am a routine person for sure, and I need something done in the morning that sets me up to be in like a positive mood. And if I'm in a positive mood, then my day is going to be good regardless if it goes the way I want or it doesn't.
Yeah, you know what I started doing actually? I started making setting little alarms on my phone. Like there's like 20 throughout the day where my phone will go off and it'll say like give gratitude, or you know, another hour would be like, you know, dude, you're doing this for, you know, your wife and your daughter, or, you know, just to kind of think about things and put things into perspective. And it's happened a lot. I mean, if I have alarms going off all day, it has to catch me at the right moment. Yeah. But I'll be kind of upset about something, or maybe discouraged or stressed. I have a bunch of, you know, custom orders to do, and I'm working on people's pants or whatever it is, and I'm trying to just crank out all this work, and then my phone will light up and it says, you know, something like smile like you're doing this for your daughter, or something like that, you know? And so that's helped me a lot too. And so I was just curious if you had anything like that. And so it's really important what you said. It's crucial that you have to start the day off right. And if you do, the rest of the day will be awesome, you know? And, you know, it could change, you know, but it happens. Like most of the time when you start it off in the morning, it's going to be a great day, you know, if you just kind of set it off that way and you smile and you're happy, you listen to good music, you're, you know, reading your scriptures, whatever it is, like it'll always pan out right, you know, for the most part.
Look, dude, I'm telling you right now, this was my value out for the day, because I'm definitely taking this. I'm going to start doing my alerts through the day, and I can already tell you, man, I'm going to start next year. Somebody's going to ask me that question again, and I'm going to say, well, my morning looks like this, and because of my friend Lheighton, I started sending these alarms.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's great.
That.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. Dude, it's awesome, and I'm telling you, we just need to be reminded, you know. And so I already can tell that you probably have grown up being a positive person, the happy kid, like everything, just because I grew up watching you. And like, you know, you always were the one on the trip, like smiling and laughing and playing jokes, and you're always a good time. And so I know that naturally you're like that. Yeah. But even with that being said, we need to be reminded sometimes, and we need to be, you know, sometimes the people who are like playing around and having the most fun behind closed doors struggle, you know, and people don't understand. And so we just have to be reminded, for sure. It's huge.
I love that.
That's a
huge one.
So for me personally, like, I think anybody who skates, you know, especially when you start when you're really young, I started when I was 11, there's some point when you want to go pro. Like that's like your dream. And, you know, you work super hard, like you're trying to film, you're trying to get sponsors and get noticed, and you're putting in all this time. And then sometimes, you know, life just kind of goes, and, you know, you wake up and you're, you know, 24, 25, 26. That's not old at all, but in skating, it's like, you know, they're looking for the young guys, the really young guys. And so I just kind of, I see some people where, you know, they really want that to happen, but they don't really know how to pivot. And so this is important in not only skating, but in business and or if you're some kind of other athlete or whatever it is you do, the importance of understanding like something may or may not happen, but understanding how to pivot and, you know, make something out of it. Like for me, for example, I wanted to go pro, and you know, that was a dream of mine. I was so excited. I was like, man, you know, I'm writing for these companies and it'll happen one day. And not to say that it couldn't, but it was just like, I decided I was going to have more fun going the business route, and I knew myself, and so I was able to pivot, luckily, and I did that. But how important was it for you to understand, you know, how to pivot and understand like skating isn't going to be the only thing for me? Because I know a lot of kids are in that position where it's like, they want something to happen so bad, and we'll just use the going pro in skating example, but you have to learn how to pivot and kind of.
Dude, totally. So what's interesting about that is my experience was that I became pro, right? I had the dream, I was obsessed with it, I became pro. So that was my only experience, was that goal being achieved. But what I experienced on the tail end, which I don't know if it was easier or harder, but having to then pivot and reinvent myself at 36 as opposed to 24. And it was hard, dude. Like, there's nothing that's gonna make it easy. That's the reality. It's like when you have a dream or you're focused on something and that something doesn't happen, it's not easy. But sometimes we get so focused on the pain in the moment, and we lose track of what's gonna happen because of that painful moment. And so what I would say is, when my career ended, that was the worst thing that ever happened to me. Like, it was devastating. What my life is now is the best that it has ever been. It's amazing. This wouldn't have happened if that wouldn't have happened. So just like, one, knowing that it's gonna be challenging, but dude, great things happen from challenge. Like, that's like the refining fire, you know? So start looking at what's next and find what your purpose is. And then, dude, the pivot isn't gonna be that hard once you understand the purpose.
Exactly. Perfect. I love it, man.
So
Thanks a lot.
let's end it on this. How old are you, 24?
25.
25.
Yeah.
God, he's so much further ahead than I was at 25. 25, for the younger kids, 15, 16, 17, what is the best piece of advice you can give them? I don't care if it's business, finance, life. What is that one piece that you can give them that will change their life when they hear it?
Oh man, I've never been asked that before. So this is crazy. Yeah, for sure. You nailed it. Man, I don't know. I mean, like I said, just trying to be happy and do something that, you know, actually take it a step further, without business, without, you know, whether you want to be an entrepreneur, whether you want to skate, whether, it doesn't matter. None of that. Just making sure that you're happy and that you're doing something that makes you happy, and that you kind of enjoy everyday life without work or anything. Obviously you have to enjoy that, but just having a good time and you know, smiling and you know, like I said, this almost sounds like, I get for a lot of people it's gonna sound corny, but it's just how I live my everyday life. Like I'm always, you know, sending voice messages to people in the morning, like, hey, I was thinking about you, you know, hope you're doing well and whatever, and sending videos of me, you know, just like, dude, I hope you're well, like, remember this one time, and just telling stories and just having fun, you know, because you just have to, man, you just have to. And so I hope that more kids, you know, just having a good time, enjoying it, and especially because they're gonna be so young and starting, I mean, man, they can really make waves and change, you know, generations. And I know they're not even thinking about that at that age, but it's just, if you just start that early, it's true. And so you just got to make sure you're happy and you're doing something that fulfills you personally, and just enjoy the process, for sure. That's what I would say. I hope that was a good answer.
I love that. Well, dude, thank you.
Yeah.
Everyone,
Thank
please
you, man.
make it a point to go follow Lheighton Cook, check out his brand Father, and let us know in the comments what the highlights of this video were. Let me know what you thought about my tail slide, my blunt slide. And at least for the conversation, let us know what your favorite part was. And at the end of the day, we appreciate you guys being here. Thank you.